Thank you again for joining us. This is episode 106 of the 2 a.m. podcast. Welcome back. Hope everyone's doing well. How are you today, Zaid?
I'm amazing. Couldn't be better.
Hell
How about you?
yes. I'm doing great. Yeah. I was a little tired earlier, but I had my daily Celsius, so I'm chill.
Yeah. I've been running on fumes because of sleep deprivation, but
Yeah.
we are rocking with it
Yes, sir.
regardless.
Yeah. So today we have a very interesting kind of route.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask you a question, and we're gonna head on to it. And it's misconceptions today. What are some misconceptions that we have ran into, or we run into quite often? I know mine. I just want to know yours.
Well, misconceptions with what? Because it's a big
Misconceptions.
yeah.
Misconceptions that you have been running into lately, like things that you started thinking about. That just seems to be following a certain pattern, in life, with human traits, interactions, situations, logic,
I'll let you go first.
mental states.
I have to think about this.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah, it is a
And
good question.
Mine would have to be the misconception of how to be as a man towards a woman,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it involves like an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
Whether it's for marriage or something along the lines of more serious. You're looking for a companion. I think there's a lot of misconception on how to be, where you're supposed to be in life, what being established means, what security means.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I feel like there's just a huge misconception of how people are acting.
How so? What are the specific ones that you're, or like a few examples?
A few examples. For example, let's just say
Oh, I actually have a good one that just
you
popped up in
do.
my head. Yeah.
Good. Save it.
Yeah, I will.
So, I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind is definitely the idea that a man needs to have something of his own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We live in a very entrepreneurial like mindset of a time right now where everyone's trying to, start up a small business and hopefully grow it bigger, or start up a service business or whatever it may be.
Correct.
Um,
So what do you mean by own?
but own a business. That's like, as in,
You're saying that's one of the misconceptions?
yes, one of the misconceptions is that it feels like you are required to have
Mhm.
something of your own to be qualified to even look towards a serious relationship.
Which is not true.
It's not true.
Yeah.
But it's a misconception. A lot
Yeah.
of people believe that. And this all comes from just generally talking to people.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a misconception. Like a lot
it's
of
a
people
huge
feel that way.
misconception. Yeah. People are like, no, I'm nowhere near even enough money.
Well, that's different because you're talking about having enough money to support a potential family compared to being an entrepreneur and having your own business.
Mhm.
Like those are two different things.
Yeah. So let me just clarify something though, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's when men are in the building phase, whether it's your 9 to 5 career or your privately owned business.
Yep.
When you're in a building stage, I think as a man, you shouldn't even be looking for a relationship until
Mm.
a transitional period is over. And what I mean by transitional period is that nothing is guaranteed as of yet. You're not really sitting on a guaranteed asset, Just because you generate a certain amount of numbers.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're rich yet. Maybe rich is money to you. Maybe rich is you have a lot of time. Maybe rich is you have a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's defined differently by everybody. But
Well, it's in the word. It's building. You're
you're
pursuing. You're going towards something much bigger than what you
exactly.
currently have.
Now, I don't know if I agree or disagree because even though I've been thinking about it a lot, I don't know whether it's a great idea or a bad idea to get into a relationship when you're in a building stage.
That is a good point. I feel like it shouldn't be the priority.
Mhm.
That's the important footnote to place. It should not be the priority for you if you're in your early 20s, even mid to late 20s. I
Mhm.
think 20s in general, that shouldn't be a man's priority, although, you know, different men can do different things. You have the opportunity to choose. But the problem I see with a lot of guys is that they look for it too early.
Mhm.
They look for it at a stage in their life when they, as you mentioned, they should be building.
Yeah.
They
Absolutely.
should be gaining skills, they should be making connections. Most of their time and energy should be put towards those things: nutrition, building your body. Building in general, whether it's a business, your body, finances, relationships outside of an intimate relationship.
Mhm.
But like I said, it's not a hard and fast rule. Like this is it's very nuanced. So
Yeah. You're right. And there's a lot of confusion with it's not really confusion, it's just I feel like people put that as their end goal.
which it should never be the
It
end
should
goal.
never be the end
Yeah.
goal, even though I do respect that. I can see this is why I have a hard time, like, agreeing and disagreeing, is because I can see both sides. I can put pros and cons to both sides.
Hmm.
Um, but I have to factor in the fact that it's 2021. A lot of things have changed. What we get taught, I guess, at a young age, and what we see as a young age through parents and other families, um, I think these days relationships are completely different. Completely different.
It's a different playing
And
field.
it's kind
Yeah.
of like we need people to be the rats to find out whether they get divorced or not, you know? Like
Here, run the
these
experiment for
yeah,
us. Let's see how
run
it
the
works.
experiment, you know? It's sad, but you see it, you know? Young people still get married, and for some reason, those marriages are different than the still young relationships from back then.
Hmm. But here's the thing. This is the issue I take with the whole experiment idea. It's that you're an individual, and when it comes to a relationship, when it comes to two people coming together and deciding that they want to be together for the rest of their lives, if
Mhm,
they so choose, it solely depends on them. It doesn't matter what the divorce rate is. You know, you see the stats, divorce rates at around 50%. That shit does not matter because at the end of the day, it's about you, the other person, and whether that's a healthy relationship.
yeah,
And the problem, as I mentioned before, the problem I see with a lot of young guys is that they try to get into it too early.
mhm,
They're not mature enough to handle that kind of relationship. When um, on the other side, they could have just extended the amount of time
mhm,
that they would have been single, built themselves up in all areas of their life, and you know, by their late 20s, let's say 29 to early 30s, they would be nicely set up for that.
mhm.
And I think a lot of people have this idea that, especially men, in your early 30s, that you're old. And I call complete bullshit on that.
Yeah,
You are still technically, in my mind, you're still technically a child. Because once you hit 30 years old, you have your 40s, 50s, 60s.
mhm.
That's an entire second half of your life.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is, though. It's definitely something has changed within, you know, the day-to-day, operations. Companies have changed,
Mhm.
work has changed, man. The way that even work builds us. So, like, I know a lot of people before COVID did remote work.
Yeah.
That's that was something that was introduced as very new because to go to work, you had to get up, brush your teeth, get the hell out of the house, and go to
Mhm.
a specific company,
Yeah.
work in your office, whatever it is. I feel like now people are getting more creative with creating more lifestyles,
Mhm.
you know? Oh, I'm the type of person where I'm on the go, you know? I still make, you know, 6 racks a year, but,
Yeah.
I don't act like it, you
Mhm.
know? I don't have to act that role. It's more about the job being done. So, I think that created more freedom, and with more freedom, it allows you to think more personal, right? It's not you're not gonna be thinking about your job 24/7 because when
Yeah.
you're in a work environment, you tend to work on thinking purely about next week's presentation, today's memo, tomorrow's meeting, you know?
You have time to relax
Yeah,
and your
you have
mind opens up to the other
exactly.
things.
So you
Yeah.
could technically, like, at work, just be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna send out this email and then see follow up with, whatever manufacturer," and then
Yeah.
you look around, you'd be like, "Oh, honey, did you take out the trash?"
Mhm.
Like, now you're thinking about home and work.
Yeah.
So it's changing a lot of I feel like we have a lot of leisure time. We're a lot more comfortable now.
A lot of people are. Well, I
So
don't know. There's an argument for that.
it makes our decisions longer to
Mhm.
decide on.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So now it's more like, okay, let's bring that idea into rushing into a relationship, for
Mhm.
example. Do you see where I'm going with this?
No, no, I get you. I get you.
It allows more room for screwing up because you're taking forever to decide because you've trained yourself to be a slower person by choosing to do the most important role of the day at home.
Yeah, I can see how
You can see,
you mix
yeah,
up personal
yeah,
and business, but at the end of the day, it's all mixed up anyways.
exactly. But I'm not saying that it's in all cases. I'm just
Mhm.
saying that that could be a potential. That's a potential theory of
Yeah.
why things play out over the course of years
Yeah.
into this.
Mhm. So to go along with misconceptions,
Yeah.
a second one that I see
Hmm.
actually is, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate from the white knights out there,
Hmm.
but being Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
And by being
Unfortunately.
now, I have to make a differentiation here. Being Mr. Nice Guy doesn't mean that you're not kind
Yeah.
to the person that you're in a relationship with.
Hmm.
Um, it means don't be a doormat. There
Basically.
is a huge difference between those two mentalities.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, what you see in a lot of guys is that because they're not building,
Hmm.
they are unable to step into their full masculine power, and they're not able to set boundaries in a relationship. They're not able to tell their woman that they don't like a certain thing that she does or a certain thing that she says,
Hmm.
and they're afraid of that pushback
Yeah.
because they haven't built themselves up to that point to where they know what they want. They understand that they are the leader in the relationship,
Yes.
because I don't care what anyone says, the man is the leader in the relationship. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it will always be.
That's how it always
And
was.
and
Mhm.
that's what women want. Women want to follow. They don't want to be a leader in a relationship.
Of course. I mean, what's nicer than having everything prepared for you? All the necessities, for example.
Exactly.
You know, why would I label myself the provider then if that's not the case?
Mhm.
Well, if we're all independent,
Yeah, you have this whole trope that women are throwing around like, "Oh, I'm an independent woman. I don't need no man." I'm like, "Okay, honey, let's see how that
let's see
works
how that's
out
gonna.
in
It's a sad life, dude. I know.
10 to 15 years."
I personally know people like that. They're above 40 and pretty sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad, and that mentality kind of ruined them.
Mhm.
Um,
And I do think like there are maybe 1% of women who might be happy with that lifestyle,
mhm.
but most of them do want a family.
Yeah, and we're basing this off of like human nature.
Yeah. Human
It's just
nature,
the way it is.
hierarchies.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And it's the way, like, you go back to, let's say, the 50s or 60s.
Mhm.
There was no war between genders that we have now.
Yeah.
It's not men against women. It was more of a laid back situation where, listen, we understood that there are certain things from each gender that they're willing to do,
Yeah.
and everyone for the most part is happy.
Yeah. It's like I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and even talking about it, there's nothing wrong with it because at the end of the day, that's your strong points provided to you by whatever source you believe in.
Hmm. Yeah.
Whoever your creator is, that's how we are.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that, um, when a man gets angry, he has more power. For example,
Hmm.
he's just like he's able to mess crap up. Just
Well, yeah.
eventually, like it's just it's within us, whether you like it or not. You're just pumped to the core. And for example, bodybuilding is another good one.
Hmm.
Look at men and women. We know both can bodybuild,
Well, there are
right?
definitely biological differences. That's not even an
Huge
argument.
biological differences.
But let me ask you a question. Like, okay, let's say it's you and your wife.
Yes.
Somebody breaks into the house.
Mhm.
Who's going to fight them?
Well, I'm independent, so
You
I'm
think you
scared of
think your
that.
woman is gonna step up to the plate
No,
and she's gonna
and if
fight them?
and if anything, my bodily instinct without a thought is I'm going to fuck shit up today, you
That's
know?
what we're talking about, biological drives.
That's it. It's just that internal drive within me as a man,
Mhm.
that's my role.
Yeah.
Whether I labeled it a role or not, that's just what I'm gonna do naturally.
Instinct kicks
Yeah,
in.
instant case. It's kind of uh, like mothers have more connection and intuition with their children than the father does biologically,
Mhm. Correct.
right?
They're way more nurturing,
Mhm,
better at listening,
mhm.
better at the, forming relationship bonds, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that we handle it differently.
What
But
specifically in the Okay, let's move on from let's go into the dating market because I think that's more interesting. Um, do you have any misconceptions that you see within the dating market that pop up?
uh, yes, and this points towards men, actually. So there's this rating system of how valuable you are based off of how many women you get,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay?
Well, what do you mean by how many women you get? Like the amount of
Like
people you've
like
had sex with?
no, literally just confrontations, centers of attention.
Okay,
How
how
much
many
are you surrounded by it,
how
you
much
know?
attention do you
How much
garner
do
from
you
women?
get, how many compliments do you get? How many interactions do you get that are just, pointed towards infatuation or
Correct, yeah.
affection,
Mhm.
whatever? Uh, yeah, a lot of guys like to count bodies, and they choose that as a metric system for themselves.
No, it's true, like, within the male sphere, that's a very real
Yeah, that's a
thing.
huge thing, and
It's like a
it's
dick swinging contest.
basically, and yeah, that to me is a huge misconception because a lot of guys, that builds a lot of insecurities within them, especially
Mhm.
when they're surrounded by testosterone.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, I don't know how he does it. He gets a lot. It's just like, why does it matter? Like at the end of the day, why does it matter? Because the fundamental rules have not changed.
Mhm.
Okay, everyone's on their own timeline. Everyone's a different person. Um, you may be seeing them as happy, but maybe they're dying inside and they're stressing out. You don't know that. You know, so stop comparing.
I'd say it matters and it doesn't matter simultaneously.
Yes, but you should be. I believe it should be more privatized than talked about, if anything.
Well, we're guys, so we're inevitably going to talk about it, but, like, don't need to share that information with strangers or
Yeah,
the public.
yeah.
That shit doesn't need to be out there.
But I'm going like the Thomas Shelby route, where
Okay?
I speak less than everybody else,
We do
but
love our
when I say something, I have something to say. You know what I'm
we
saying?
do love Thomas Shelby.
Thomas Shelby
That
is
guy's a that guy's a fucking savage.
yeah, he's a savage. His quotes are all insane.
Mhm.
His writers are just amazing. I'm glad they casted
Yeah.
Killian Murphy.
Well, let me
But
actually bring up an important point with the whole
yeah,
dating market and specifically body count. The amount of partners you've had sex with. For men, society doesn't look down upon men who have sex with a certain number of women
okay. So you're basing this off like traditionally here.
or just human history in general.
Okay.
But if you pose that question to women and you have two women, you have a woman who understands that sex is a very intimate process and
Hmm.
that it's sacred.
Sacred,
At the
yes.
end of the day, it's sacred. So you have one woman who thinks it's sacred. She's either a virgin or she has had sex with one or two partners. On the other hand, you have the ratchet kind of woman
Hmm.
who just goes out, has sex with, you know,
Anything you can get your hands on.
with a guy, let's say a new guy 4 times a week. Society inherently looks down upon that because throughout history, cultures have always prized women
Hmm.
and their virginity.
Yeah.
because they understand how important, like, a woman's body is able to produce a baby.
Mhm.
That's not a thing to mess around with.
Not at all. And it's turned into like a game.
Yeah.
It's a ranking game at this
Mhm.
point. I see that as a problem.
And what I do see in modern day culture and in the dating market in general today is that we're fine we it's harder and harder to find a woman who prizes her virginity or a low body count
Yeah.
compared to, like, you're seeing more women go to the other end of the spectrum,
Mhm.
which I think is a big problem.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash for saying that, but that's the truth.
Yeah. And that's okay. You're always gonna have people that are gonna oppose you,
Mhm.
no matter what it is.
Yeah, of course.
You could
Of
say
course.
Chuck E. Cheese is the dopest place in the world, and someone will disagree.
Fuck Chuck E. Cheese, man.
Yeah. But yeah, that's an interesting point. It's it's never it's never as shameful for a man as it is for a woman.
Mhm. And here's another point.
And it's weird because it's
Yeah.
not like someone put a rule on that. It just naturally,
Human beings inherently understand it.
yeah.
Because throughout human culture, every single culture, like, for example, with war,
Mhm.
why do we send men out to war?
Because the women are they're your prized protection, dude. Like,
Women and children are prized.
yeah.
Okay, they take on a different, a special quality. Whereas men, people don't look at it from this perspective, but men are disposable
Mhm.
in the war context
Yeah.
because they
I
have
mean,
more testosterone. They're willing to
yeah.
fight. They are the protectors. They are the providers. That's how it is.
Yeah. When you leave, there's an 80% chance you're dying, if
Yeah,
not higher.
yeah.
So yeah, I no, I get that.
It's like, why would we send the women out there?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that
we
they can
need
all
them.
die, and then
No,
we don't
we
have anybody who can produce children for us? We
exactly,
don't
and
have
we need them.
families?
And then like without them, the children that are growing up can potentially die too,
Yeah,
So they're the caregivers
yeah.
naturally.
Mhm.
As the times changed, I do accept change as well.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to. So, if a woman's going to be independent or you're looking for, dual or triple income like couple or marriage, household, I don't think you should shy away from that. You want what you want.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. Sometimes like the act of survival requires that, depending on where you are, situations,
Yeah,
circumstances.
and like, nobody should judge the type of relationship you have because at the end of the day, it's your choice. Like, if you wanna be in a polygamous relationship, have multiple partners, go ahead. Who am I to say that you can't do it?
Yeah.
If you wanna be monogamous, you just wanna have one partner that you wanna spend the rest of your life with,
Hmm.
go ahead.
There's still cultures and traditions that do that too.
Now, I will say in Western society, there are pros and cons to each.
Hmm.
Um, of course, you mentioned the divorce rate is 50%, so there's always that element to
Hmm.
it. Um, but with a more polygamous approach, I can see how society becomes more degenerate and doesn't value sex as much,
Yeah.
and it just treats it like, whatever.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you go back to when countries were being established or pieces of land and regions, it's kind of like, okay, so what philosophy are we going to adopt first?
Yeah.
Is it going to be honor? Is it going to be, I don't know, honor, respect?
Hmm.
Is it going to be government?
Hmm.
What kind of operation are we running here?
Yeah.
That's the first.
What values
What
do we follow?
values? What
Yeah.
values? Yeah. Um, where the hell was I going with that?
The thing is with this subject, there's so many
There's
avenues you
so
could
many
take, bro.
avenues, and that's. I feel like we can apply that too, still today. As
For
times
sure.
change, you can always apply that. Um, so with a multiple partner, like we
Mhm.
know, like Islamically speaking, you can have up to four.
Yeah, which is
That's what's allowed, I guess, in the religion. Not many do it today, but
because it's a goddamn mission.
yeah,
Like,
it's a mission. It's expensive. Like you better be about it,
it's hard
And
enough
it's
trying to create a healthy relationship with one person. I can't imagine 4.
yeah,
What?
but you get it. It's kind of like that's your household now. You have four wives, right?
Yeah.
You have one for honor, one for virtue, and the other one for government, and then the fourth one for leisure. whatever. Like,
Like, they serve different
you can
roles.
kind of like if you're like a multi-sourced man, I guess it makes sense. Like you could think about it that way. That to me is too much,
Yeah, it's way too much
way
for
too
me,
much.
yeah.
And I honestly just care about having like a very private relationship to begin with. Why would you want a mess? You know,
Yeah.
women are jealous.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I've
Well,
seen it. I've seen it.
yeah,
It's
you know,
fucking weird.
whether she's in agreement or not, like there has to be something there where it's um but that's a whole other topic. That's
It is a whole other topic. Yeah.
um but yeah, misconceptions. So if we stay back on track,
Mhm.
would you say there's any other misconceptions with today's world of relationships?
Fuck, such a hard
I
one.
know. Yeah,
Misconceptions.
it's a thinker.
I wouldn't classify this as a misconception. I would say just specifically with men,
Mhm.
well, I'll talk about both men and women. Men need to understand that they are born like, okay, we can say every human being has inherent value. I get that perspective, but
Mhm.
strictly speaking in this context, men when they're born, they're pretty useless. Like as a man, you have to build yourself up.
Mhm.
You have to learn certain skills. You have to become the type of man that you want to be. So that's why I've said before in the past that men age like fine wine if they're focused on improvement.
Yeah.
Like they get better over time as they get older and they become more attractive to women as they get older and improve. But with women, they're like we mentioned, because they're so prized,
Mhm.
they have inherent value. So it depends on their beauty, it depends on how they're born, essentially. And of course, they can also improve, but I did want to make that distinction because I think that's an important one.
Yeah. I think that's interesting because on the man's side, um,
It's better for us
the
to talk about men
yeah,
because we're men. We
yeah,
understand that more intimately. So,
being more attractive, I think, comes with being confident with your own being first,
yeah,
and by that I mean
100%.
self love, taking care of your own self.
Yeah.
Naturally, as we get older, we like if you're conscious enough, your hygiene goes up.
Mhm.
You start to care about your presentation. It's not just AirPods that come well presented. I come well presented as well. But
Well, for some dudes
you get me?
nowadays, but a lot of
Yeah.
dudes are just
But
like,
that's
"Oh,
why I said you have to be conscious and aware of it. You have
yeah."
to willingly want to do it.
Mhm.
And with that comes a lot,
Comes
a
a
lot
whole lot.
without you even having to try. I mean, obviously, just being comfortable with yourself, taking yourself out, enjoying your time alone, go to the theaters alone,
Mhm.
enjoy the things you enjoy without company.
Yeah.
Because the only company you technically need and that you can master is yourself.
Mhm.
Once you do that, things will follow. And I think that's where the age comes in. It's
Yeah.
spending so much time alone.
Mhm.
When you spend so much time alone, it doesn't mean it's depressing either. It could start off as depressing,
Mhm.
but I tell my siblings to do this all the time. Okay. And I tell my parents to let them do this. And it's basically turn off the Wi Fi, take everything away, let them cry. Let's see what they do when they're bored.
You can't baby them.
You cannot baby them. Let them go through the cycles, whether they're going to cry, break stuff, mess up the wall. They're eventually going to get quiet. They're going to get bored and they're going to have to do something.
You're gonna have to do some man shit.
There you go. Now we're on to something.
Yeah.
They started digging. They're
Mhm.
like, oh my God, we found some rocks in the backyard. And it's like, oh, dude, that's sick. And you would hype them up for that more than you would a video game because it's just more like you're in your own world right now, in
Yep.
your own world. You're all the habits that you're going to develop, everything is going to come from you at this moment. And that's from less distractions.
Mhm.
Everything around us is a distraction besides our physical being.
Yeah. No,
Whatever you
it's
choose to
facts.
do, that's going to help you in the long run. That's why I say don't focus on relationships, but focus on your own relationship.
Mhm. Okay, I have
That's
another
what's going to
question
build.
for you.
Yeah.
When do you think men hit their prime?
33.
Very specific number.
Mhm.
Okay, I like it.
I see it a lot.
Because I feel like a lot of guys think their prime is in like their early 20s.
And that is not true. because I was like that. I remember at 25, I was telling myself, "Hell yeah, I know everything I want to do. I know
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
everything's laid out for you, and
Mhm.
I'm going about it very chill and confident. But you know what? 2 years later, everything changed.
That's how it's supposed to be too.
Yeah, and then what do? You don't deny it. You accept it. You realize that it is impossible for me to lay out everything in front of me.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. You have to just accept, be a good decision maker, move on,
Mhm.
never go back.
Why 33?
33, because I feel like at 30, when you or usually around 29/30, when that birthday is about to hit, what a lot of people do, this is coming from like my friends and family, they start to think, "Wow, finally, I'm established. I'm driving a BMW. I'm doing like all this stuff. I finally collected enough money since 18 to be able to afford this through cash flow and whatever my side business. And now I have a job that lines up. I have a
Mhm.
6 year contract. It's no longer like short term.
Yeah.
Everything has been playing out in long term signatures.
Yeah.
So it relaxes you. And at 30, what I tend to realize is that they really do find their flow, and it's usually a slow one. Like,
Mm.
they finally have maxed out chilled, but they're at the most, like, proactive, um, like, all-time high.
Yeah, I get you.
It's a spike of, like, I will do everything? Like, I could be working 3 jobs, still have a good relationship with the family, um, run charities,
Mhm.
do homeless work on the weekends. Like, you're just so active that and you feel good internally. You can see it on their face. Like, they're glowing. They look
Yeah.
good. Their hair is in, like, the best shape of their life for most people, so kind of.
Obviously assuming that they take care of themselves
They
throughout
take care
their
of themselves.
20s, yeah.
Yeah. Um, they're pretty fit usually. Um, yeah, dude. Like, it's
Well, I mean, that's the biggest problem I have. It's like seeing a lot of these other dudes out here who they're just they've checked out of life and they're in their early 20s,
mhm.
22, 25, and they're basically they're dead on an emotional and spiritual level
Yeah.
because I understand, I mean, I can understand how people get to that point, but guys need to understand that things get better as long as you get better.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds cliche, but it's just the fucking truth.
Yeah. When you get better, things get better.
Yeah.
That's how it is. It's all I swear to you, the one thing I learned is that it's all mental power.
Mhm.
Do you have an on and off switch for when you're feeling down? Can you turn it off and be like, "I'm gonna get through this day," and smile about it or not?
That's what it means to be a man.
Yeah, and then if you can't, you have some discipline work to do
Mhm.
because you can wire yourself a certain way. That's what people don't understand.
That Goggins mentality.
Mhm. You get literally, but I'm not saying it in such an extreme form. It's really sitting down and figuring it out because, like, we learned this. If anyone has taken, like, a math course or something, sure, you're not gonna get it the first time, but once you try again and again and again and again and again for the same problem, it's gonna be the same answer with the same denominator in the same parentheses.
Yeah.
But it took you this long to figure it out because you spent the time.
Mhm.
So imagine that that problem was yourself. That was one part of yourself that you worked on. Once you mastered it, you know you did, so you move on to the next flaw.
Correct. Mhm.
It's problem solving.
No, 100%. And the reason why I say it's frustrating seeing a lot of these other guys out here just,
Mhm.
checking out of life is because that's my worst fear.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest pain source of pain for me in the future. I can think ahead and I'm like, I do not want to become like these fucking
Yeah.
people.
No one can think anymore. Straight up.
They can't think ahead. They certainly can't think ahead.
Yeah. Like it's so culture based and I feel like the culture is so much around social media.
Well, of course it is. It's part of
It's
our lives now.
yeah. And it's kind of like I mean, we see this all the time, but it's just like men are trash, women are trash. They're trash. We're not trash. You're trash. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? It's kind of like it's back and forthing, but it's just like maybe the thing is that people that are on this platform are trash. It's not men are trash or women are trash.
Maybe it's just a bunch of people who grew up in a trash culture.
Yeah, or maybe you don't know how to seek further.
Yeah.
So you get stuck within your own community and everyone within your community is just trash. So you just label 4.6 billion people trash?
What's that quote? I don't know, something around you are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Spend time with like four shitty people, you'll become the fifth.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
I like that one. You become the fifth.
Yeah.
And to that, I plea. Just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a tough time. I will say that. But I never think you should rush into it. And as we know, the universe usually lines up with wherever your headspace is or whatever timing uh, your life kind of allows, your own timeline.
You mentioned that earlier. I want you to go deeper into that.
Yeah. So like
The idea
going
that
into the timeline.
you sent me a voice message.
Yeah.
What was it about? It was like things have a tendency to find a way to you when you think of them.
Yes. This has been happening a lot.
Mhm.
Me and you are around each other a lot, so this has been happening a lot. But it's basically like things in the universe have a tendency to find the path to you depending on what you're so focused on.
Yeah.
100%. And I will give you an example. Let's just say you were thinking about, I don't know, stomach bloating or like gastro-technical things, right?
Gastrotechnical, that's the first one I've
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah, you're just like, I didn't feel right yesterday, and my brain is now focused on my stomach not feeling great.
Yeah.
And I go on WebMD, and I'm just like, hey, let's check this out. And you start reading about esophagus crap, extra gas, acid timing throughout the day,
Bloating, all that shit.
bloating, and
Yeah.
you're just like, that's interesting. And then you go to sleep, and you wake up the next day, and you see like a famous influencer or something just put out like this giant paragraph about gastro asphyxiation or whatever. And
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, what? Why is this the first thing on my page?
It's interesting, isn't
And
it?
it's not that Google's listening. The universe is listening.
Oh, that's a quote for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know why this happens. We have a part of our, it's not a full explanation of why it happens, but there's a part of our brain called the RAS,
Mhm.
reticular activating system. And it's so trippy when you research this thing because you know the phenomenon when you buy, let's say you buy a yellow Honda Civic, horrible choice, horrible color, okay?
Yeah.
And then you start seeing yellow Honda Civics everywhere on the road,
Mm-hmm.
where beforehand you never saw one.
Yeah.
That's the RAS at play.
That's what it is.
Your mind is so
It's-
focused on one particular thing
Mhm.
that there's a confirmation bias to it that you now inherently pick up on all the things that
Yeah.
you look for.
I think that's a mild form, though, that analogy. Like
It's a mild form.
yeah.
Yeah.
But an extreme form would be something like I told you, where you literally, the first moment you open the app,
Mhm.
it's just sitting there like it found its way to you.
Yeah.
You feel so personally connected to it that it's almost life-changing.
Would that be classified as synchronicity?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I'd
would
say
have to
that's
say so.
synchronicity,
I would
yeah.
have to say so, yeah. Lines up with it.
Mhm.
But it's fascinating. It's very fascinating. Pay attention to that stuff, guys.
I'm telling you, like, this is why. Have you heard of the book, like, The Secret, the movie The Secret?
No.
The idea that you can manifest with your mind.
Ooh.
You can just think about what you want in the future and it'll happen. Now, of course, you can't just think on your couch and not do anything. Like, you have to work.
It requires another depth of focus
Mhm.
almost.
But who mentioned this? The author, I think it was the author Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth, the
Okay.
book.
Okay.
He talks about how when you follow your own unique route,
Mhm.
doors will begin to open up where there was never one before. in such a unique way that only you can walk through that door. Something along those lines.
Yeah. No one's timeline is the same. And here's a clear indicator of we're all different. Every living being's eye is a whole different universe.
That's true.
No,
Fingerprints.
yeah, none of them are the same.
Yep.
Eyes to me are just insane.
Hmm.
Like that's something that I'm like very fascinated by. Fingerprints, I was, but
Eyes are more appealing because they're the
yeah,
jewels of the universe.
but it's
of
like
course.
when you look deep into them, they're not scary per
No.
se. They're just there's so much story
Hmm.
within someone's eyes.
You can tell a lot.
Mhm.
I'm sure you can tell if somebody's killed someone else just by the way
Yeah.
their eyes
And
are.
it's not people think it's like the muscle surrounding it. It's not the muscle. It's literally your eye speaking. That's
Hmm.
crazy.
Some eye physiognomy
Think
action
of
for
Tom
you.
Hardy. Tom Hardy has a lot of roles where his mouth isn't showing. It's just eyes.
Yeah.
And he's a master at that. It's crazy how much there is in the eyes. It's
Mm.
deep.
No, it's true,
Very
man.
deep.
It's 100% true.
Yeah, very much so. All right. What do you think? Do you want to add a
Anything else
little
on the
touch?
whole man and woman thing?
I would say some advice. Just don't rush into it. The only thing I would rush into though is building yourself. I would start right now.
You don't have time, for sure.
You literally don't have time. Start right now. Focus on that. Things will happen in life. One of them will be a girl or guy. That's it.
Yeah. And it's funny because
Control what you can control. That's it.
there's also an element to like whatever you want comes into your life when you're not focused on it.
Mhm.
Like you see a lot of guys or gals who have this like I need to get a
Yeah.
boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife.
Yeah.
And it never happens for them or they end up
Mhm.
in shitty relationships. But when they stop looking,
Yeah.
somebody comes into their life.
If we did the podcast for money, we would not have gone to episode 100.
No. No.
If we did it to do the podcast,
We wouldn't
we
even
made it to
start.
100.
We wouldn't even
Yeah.
start if that was the case.
Exactly. So I think the thing that's killing all of us, to be honest, is that we focus too much on money. We hold on to it like, for dear life almost.
Hmm.
And the way I see it is that it comes and it goes, but it comes more than it goes.
It's a flow.
Therefore, you already know what to focus on.
The 2 a.m. podcast.
Exactly.
Cha-ching.
Check us out at the 2 a.m. podcast on YouTube, guys. We also have a side channel called the 2 a.m. Clips. Go check that out. We're on Spotify, Anchor.fm, Libsyn, Google Pod,
Everything.
everything. Every major platform you can think of. Yeah, go ahead, rate, subscribe, like, follow us, send us a message, tell your family and friends.
Tune in for more.
Exactly. Well, until then, guys, we'll see you next time.